Hey guys, I've made videos in the past explaining why 8 gigabytes of RAM on the PlayStation 4 wasn't that big of a deal, why it wasn't really, a game changer. I've made videos on the past showing PC games running on a beast of a rig and showing the memory usage. What I have to do now is explain graphics settings, details, and why resolution isn't graphics. I've been reading a lot of forum posts and comments because of The Last of Us for the PlayStation 4 and how the developers are like going ooh and ah about it running at 60 frames a second and its native resolution of 1080p. First, I have to say the game was never developed from the ground up for the PlayStation 3, and I'm going to say this because the game has not been remastered. The game always looked that way. They had to dumb it down to run on the PlayStation 3, and they had to dumb it down dramatically. This is something that a lot of gamers out there don't understand, that these games are developed on PCs. They're developed on very powerful hardware, and they tweak them and they use SDKs which tell them about performance. It tells them, how the processor would handle things, and they use a dev kit which is hooked up to a PC so that way it can run and get the statistical data. When The Last of Us was originally shown off, you can't tell me that that game was running on a PlayStation 3. There is no way in hell it was running on a PlayStation 3. It was running on a dev kit or a PC just to show off its graphics. And this is the same thing that they did for Forza 5 with Microsoft. They showed off a game that looks far better than it actually does look on a final retail hardware and game. When it comes to graphics, you can have 1080p and the game can still look like shit. There's more to graphics than resolution and frame rate. There's anti-aliasing, which removes the jagged edges on the things, and still, consoles to this day do not utilize anti-aliasing. Forza 5, they definitely utilized it for the, upcoming attractions or trailers and preview builds that they showed off. They were using anti-aliasing because it was running on PCs. When they put it on the console, you have to understand the console's graphics card is pathetic compared to what you can get nowadays on PC. A $150 graphics card is more powerful than the PlayStation 4's graphics card, so kiss my ass. When it comes to games such as Grand Theft Auto 5, my biggest complaint with it is it should never have been released on the PlayStation 3 or the Xbox 360. The game is unplayable. The game is ruined for the fact that the frames drop well below 30 frames a second. The draw distance is shit. The anti-aliasing non-existent. The texture resolutions are shit. It's just it's a mess. It is a complete mess, and I'm amazed that they felt that this was a proper release for such outdated consoles. When they show off Grand Theft Auto 5 on the PlayStation 4, that is getting close to what the game actually looks like, because I'm not dumb. I remember the original the public relations releases, the PR releases of screenshots of the game, and they were showing off this world. The game doesn't even look like that on the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. The game looks like shit. The resolution is just crap. Again, the draw distance is not there. If you look at when you're driving on the roads, you'll notice that the lines on the roads are appearing like 10 feet in front of you. On a PC, that's a non-issue. Grand Theft Auto 4 looks better on a PC than Grand Theft Auto 5 on these consoles. And trust me, when Grand Theft Auto 5 comes out on PC, all these publications are going to come up with comparisons and stuff, and you have to understand that there's more to it than just resolution and frame rate. So textures, they utilize, in order to have textures, you have to utilize the GPU's memory. And again, this is something that you're going from 256 megabytes of RAM on the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360. Xbox 360, yes, it was a shared cache pool of 512 megs, but you're going from that to 8 gigs. So the available cache that you can store these textures in is immensely improved. That's why if you notice games like what was it, like Rage, if you started spinning around in circles, you'll see like whatever you didn't see, it takes a while for the textures to load and pop in because it has to constantly be streamed from the disk. This is also why Grand Theft Auto 5 takes like 4 or 5 minutes to load when you launch it. It has to load a lot of textures, and there's constant streaming of these textures, and that's why the draw distances are shit, because the memory is just not allowing the textures to stay in memory for long. And because you have an open world game, there's just so much to it. There's so much detail. There's so much differences. That's why if you look at a game like Infamous Second Son, there really was no fill in. It seemed that there, as far as you can see, it was fine. You didn't have to wait for textures to pop in and load in. And that's again because it has a nice large cache of memory. With your games, there's a lot of settings that when you go into PC gaming, you can set the resolution. I can set Grand Theft Auto 4 to 1080p. I can set it to that. I can, the frame rate will be at 60 frames a second. But I could also make the game look worse than a console. And that's if you lower everything. You lower the anti-aliasing, you turn that off. Anisotropic filtering, which is really more or less the draw distance. You can turn down the textures, so you're loading very basic forms of very complex textures, so the game looks like a PlayStation 2 game. These are the things that console gamers just don't understand. And developers understand this very well. And that's why when you see these whole so-called remastered editions, they're not remastered. The textures were always there. However, in order for them to get it to run on shit hardware, they had to dumb it down. And this is just something that PC gamers have known for years. And that's why when you have these people that are writing in the comments, they're writing, "Oh, I've seen 60 frames, I just can't go back." It's like, I've been playing on PC and I find it very difficult to play console games because they run like shit. And this is the thing, that the PC version of Grand Theft Auto 5 is going to run even better than the PlayStation 4 edition. And that's just the fact of the matter. PC hardware is always going to be more powerful because it's not stagnant, it's not static, it's dynamic. You could have infinite customization options on PCs, and that's why I'm a firm believer in PC gaming. That, yes, you can have a $4,000 computer, but you could also have a $500 computer that does pretty well. Yes, it's not going to be the most impressive thing, but it still gets by. And that's why I just think that, console gaming is just really stagnated everything. Developers, especially when they're doing multiplats, they go for the lowest common denominator. And a lot of times, if you notice, PCs have suffered. In the case of Call of Duty, Call of Duty has never looked as good as it did until they released Ghost. So if you showed off Black Ops 2 on PC maxed out and you show off Ghost maxed out on PC, completely different experiences. And that's because they had no reason to develop higher resolution textures. They had no reason to put in a brand new game engine. They had no reason to do this because the consoles were, again, old, outdated. They needed to be replaced. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One should have came out about 4 years ago. They're long overdue. Yes, they're out now, but now it's everyone's playing catch up, and in the meantime, they're just trying to milk and cash grab every game that was successful or popular on the previous generation. The Last of Us, yes, it's a great game. It's not the most amazing game I've ever played. It's far from it. It's a good game. There's no doubting it. But there was no reason for it to be released on the PS3. They should have released it on the PS4 from the get-go. And that's because it was intended to be on the PlayStation 4 from the get-go. And when they're like, "Oh, look at this. So we remastered it." You didn't remaster shit. You didn't remaster anything. You know, basically what you did was you took a CD, you ripped it as a 128 kilobit per second MP3, sold that MP3 as the final release, and then all of a sudden, a year later, whip out the CD and start selling the CD to everybody. You know, if anyone's into technology, that's kind of the analogy. It's like selling a DVD and a Blu-ray release of the same movie at the same time. Yes, the Blu-ray release is going to look better. It's going to be crisper. It's going to be, you know, more colors. Everything's just going to look better. But what they did was, and you know, they released this game just as a DVD, not the Blu-ray. And then a year later, they sell you the Blu-ray. You know, it really was the way they played it out is the reason why people are pissed off. Not to say that, oh, they're not entitled to their money or they don't deserve the money or, you know, you already bought it, blah, blah, blah. Why are you complaining? It has nothing to do with that. It's the entire principle of the matter. The fact is, they released it on the PlayStation 3 just to make a quick buck. The game was originally supposed to be on the PlayStation 4. There's no doubt about it. And just showing how within a year's time, okay, they show off this demo and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to be selling this for $60 on the PlayStation 4. It's like, yeah, but you didn't really do anything. You didn't do any work. You know, all you did was sell us something you made already. So you're double dipping for the same work that you already did. And it's the same case in point for Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 should have come out on the PC at the same time that they released it for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. They should have. But they didn't do it because it's obvious. If you released it on the PC at the same time, you would see two completely different experiences. And I'm telling you, yes, maybe the content is the same. Yes, you have the same missions, you have the same amount of cars, you have the same, you know, cursing and music stations. But the fact of the matter is, the PC version is day and night better than the console version. And, you know, it's amazing what they're doing these days in gaming. And this is why I hate gaming these days. Is that everything is about cash grabs, it's about money. And, you know, the thing is that the actual creators out there have all but vanished. You know, the people that actually made gaming great, you know, the artists that, you know, had inspiration and passion to make a great game, those guys are gone. You know, I mean, the people that made, you know, hits such as Banjo-Kazooie, the people who made, you know, Ocarina of Time, the people that made Mega Man, made, you know, these big RPGs, you know, these people are just not there. The people who made Resident Evil, had the original idea and concepts of it, are no longer there. All we have now are a bunch of fuckers that just, you know, have these very ridiculous time frames. They rush out games that are broken and then they wait to patch it later. I made a rant about this years ago. I made a rant about this when Modern Warfare 3 came out. The game was unplayable online for up to about a month and a half after the game came out. They released like 20 something updates in that time period. And they're still releasing updates for the game. Now, not to say that, okay, they find a glitch here and there, or someone finds an exploit that was very difficult and hard to find. We're talking about simple things such as I pop in a disc, I go to hit play, and I can't connect to any matches. That is unacceptable. And this is all the gaming industry has become. Battlefield 4 is still unplayable. It still has massive problems. But then they go and they announce the next Battlefield, Hardline, and people are just going to bite and buy that up? Even after the experience, after the fact that they sold you a broken game, you're still going to do that. You know, it would be like buying a car that, you know, half the time you go to turn it on, it doesn't start, or half the time that you're driving it, it just randomly stalls. And then, you know, the car company comes out with a new car the following year, and you immediately buy that one. Like, you know, it's just this mentality needs to stop. You know, to say, oh, poor developers, poor this, poor that. You know, I'm not saying that the at the end of the day, the individual developer is to blame. I believe it's the industry as a whole. It's the whole concept of publishers, where publishers are expecting, you know, they want to milk, you know, sand and expect to get, you know, gold out of it. This kind of attitude needs to stop. We need to stop these yearly releases. We need to stop this whole, oh, here's an eight, let's just milk the same fucking game again. Let's re-release it, but we're going to make it a little bit better by increasing the graphic settings just a hair. And then we're going to say, oh, look, it's only possible on this console that with the power of the Xbox One, you can experience the whole Halo collection, blah, blah, blah. It required little to no effort for them to do it, but then they're going to make, millions of dollars off it. It's just, this is what it's become. You know, it's like manufactured artists. Music today is manufactured shit. The real people that had actual inspiration, that their album actually told a story and had meaning behind it, is gone. Now it's, oh, let's just repeat the same words over and over and over again. Let's have lyrics that are only 10 words long, and then just add a little funky beat to the back of it, and there you go, it's a hit. That's what gaming is. Unoriginal, manufactured shit that's rushed out, requires a shitload of updates. Half the game is broken off and resold to you as DLC. That's gaming. That's what it's become. And then the free-to-play market has only encouraged developers to be even more dickheads. The fact of, oh, you pay us $60, and then we are going to put we're going to put roadblocks in the game. And that if you want to get over this roadblock, instead of actually playing the game and overcoming that achievement, you should swipe your credit card and give us more money, because that's just the way it is now. Fuck gaming, guys. I'm getting sick of it. And it's only getting worse. With these new consoles, what have we seen? What magic has come out of the PlayStation 4's release? Nothing. An overhyped infamous Second Son that was really mediocre and shit compared to the first two. Games that they announce that they don't even revisit anymore, or games that they announced 2 years ago and they aren't coming out for another 2 years. And by the time they come, they're not going to be anywhere near as good as they originally promised. You look at games that, like Watch Dogs, they show you one game that had very impressive details, and then the game you get doesn't even match up at all. And this shit needs to end, guys. Us as gamers, we need to start voting with our wallets. We said it in the past. When we tried to fight on-disc DLC, which still happens, when we tried to fight these online passes, which, yes, they're not as bad, but now we have to pay to play online for both the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. I still think that's shit compared to the fact that you don't have to pay to play online with the Wii U. You don't have to pay to play online for PC. So, we really need to stand together, guys, because it's getting ridiculous.